Hey everyone, I'm just here to give you a quick overview of a katana that I recently purchased from BladesPro. I was looking on their site for a while, trying to get into sword collecting. I liked what I saw, but I haven't seen very many people review their swords in terms of what sort of quality they are. So I thought I'd give you my initial impressions in case this can prove helpful to others who are looking to get into sword collecting. So I ordered this about 2 weeks ago, so it took 2 weeks to arrive. That's pretty good considering that Blades Pro actually sources their swords from China, just like most sites do these days. This is a mass-produced sword. This particular one is called the Dara clay-tempered katana. It's only 274 bucks, so it's relatively cheap. However, I will say I'm actually quite impressed with the quality and the build quality of this sword. It's kind of exceeded my expectations given the price. Most of the time, when you get a cheap katana, they fall apart pretty quickly. So, first things first, I will say that the saya or the scabbard, it's a lot darker than it appears on the site. On the site, the blue is very bright. It's actually brighter than the blue that you see in the Sageo or the cord, which I prefer. I prefer this darker blue. It's kind of like a navy blue. I kind of like that. The other thing I'll call out about the scabbard or the saya is that the koiguchi, or I should say lack thereof, at the cap here, usually on the higher end swords that's made of a buffalo horn, but here it's just wood, so there's not really a cap. Again, it's a $274 sword, so it's not really a problem in my book. Other than that, nothing too remarkable about the saya. I will say that because this is a mass produced sword, keep in mind that the blades are forged in batches and the sayas are, well, they're made separately, so they're not made to fit this particular blade. So the sword goes in fine. It's snug as it's snug up here at the top, so it takes some force to draw the blade. So if you're planning on getting a sword for a Yaito or something like that, this is probably not the sword for you. It's not bad. It's just that it's typical of a mass-produced sword. Things don't fit exactly right. It's good enough for my purposes, though. Now, moving on to the sword itself. So the kashiri or the cap here. I don't know if you can tell. This has a cherry blossom design. It's made of an alloy. It doesn't exactly say what sort of steel it is. It's probably aluminum or something like that. It's still, it fits good. It looks good. The ito or the wrap is very, very tight. You cannot move it. The triangles it creates are pretty even. It's not the best I've ever seen, but it's a, it's a cheap sword, guys. This is actually really good for a cheap sword. The Manuki or the figure underneath, this is a dragon. It's painted with a gold paint, but it looks alright. Now, the Fuchi or Fuki, uh, it actually lines up with the Ito pretty well. I know this is usually a problem with cheap swords, but here it seems to fit pretty well. The Suba, or the wrist guard, it's made of iron. It's painted with a black lacquer and then kind of a gold paint for the heads of the dragon that's on there. It's a very nice design. I'm really happy with it. Uh, the hibaki, it's nice. Usually on a cheap sword you get um, a plain design. This one has a texture to it. It's pretty nice. And there's another look at the Suba from the other side. It's actually a very nice design. Again, I'm very happy with it. Now the blade itself. Here's where we get into some controversy. So Blades Pro, they don't list their steel type used in the blade unless it's 1095. Uh, so on the site, the sword, it just says clay tempered folded steel. That's all it says. However, they also say that they only use swords with 1095, 1060, or 1045 high carbon steel. So this is either 1045 or 1060, but I just don't know which. So that's a point taken off, definitely. That's not good. They should be telling you what kind of sword or steel is being used in your blade. Still, for me, I'm not going to be using it for cutting. It's for decoration, so it's not really a big deal to me. But if you're going to be using it for cutting, just keep that in mind. I did send them an email asking what the blade steel is, and they never got back to me, so there is that. However, the blade itself, I'm fairly happy with it. As you can see, the hamon, or the wavy pattern, is fairly pronounced. It looks good. Up close, and I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but you can see that the pattern caused by the folded steel. It looks really good. The tip of the blade is very pronounced. The sword does not have a bowie or blood groove. I wanted my first sword not to have that. And I love the look of the blade. The blade looks very good, so it will display very well. It's straight. There's no issues. Could be polished a little better, but again, it's $274, guys. This is a cheap sword. Yet it looks like it probably should cost more like $600 or $700, based on other sites that I've seen. So this is a pretty good deal, in my opinion. So if you're looking for a good, cheap way to, get into sword collecting, give BladesPro a try. I like them. Yeah. So hopefully this review is a little helpful. Have a good day.